Hi everyone, this is Kyle with kayDbait. I wanted to do a follow-up video from the one I just made, and then I was reviewing my video and I'm like, what the heck is this thing behind me? It is a cake pan thing or cookie sheet or whatever. I've been doing the dishes. There, I hit it. It's made of metal. It's not what it looks like. It's just a weird angle of it on the table. There's also a cutting board and a pizza pan. I've been cleaning up the apartment. And the thing right here is actually a foam mattress pad that I took off of. It was in the closet, and I'm going to give it to my friend. If he doesn't want it, I'm going to throw it away. I've been cleaning up a bunch. My brother is out of town, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to clean. I wanted to address that because it looked really weird when I was reviewing the video. Probably people don't even notice, but I thought I would say that before people would post something weird, especially if this gets big. I don't know. But this video is supposed to be on war, like the concept of military. So it's not more war so much as the military. It's focusing on the concept of what the military is supposed to be. And because it's a very controversial topic, I don't like to talk about those kinds of things. I don't like to talk about things that are going to get attention purely because they're controversial. I try to avoid those. But when it comes up in a video as something that I need to explain, and I don't have enough, like, it's not the focus of the video and I don't want to get off topic. So I started this one in the hopes to expand upon that. I mentioned it in my last one is what I'm trying to say. So the concept of being benevolent and trying to help people, there's going to be a couple of different points that I wanted to make on this, because I actually wanted to make it before as well. The military, in its most basic components, are to protect the country that it is for from external threat. That's its whole purpose. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of specifics of, building technologies and not just protecting the civilians, but protecting the government, and also for protecting other governments by intervening and preventing damage abroad as well. So you have the military that's specifically trained for here, and then there's the military trained for traveling, and you have different versions of it. You have the Navy, you have the Navy SEALs, and then you have the Air Force, and you have a whole bunch of different versions of the military, and their whole purpose is to protect. And I'm not going to get into the morality of it necessarily, of whether it is benevolent or whether it's evil, because there's a lot of people that say all military is evil. I've had a roommate that called another roommate a baby killer just because he was in the military, even though it had nothing to do with that. He was a driver for where was that? Iraq? I don't remember, but he was a military driver. He saved lives, but he didn't shoot anybody, at least not that I know of. So I don't know why somebody would call him a baby killer, just because they hated him so much. But what I wanted to talk about was I guess the social implications of the military around the world. Like, I had an issue a few days ago where I was talking to one of my friends. It's my friend from Venezuela, about just how his country has screwed him over. It's not his fault. And I was thinking about what it's going to be like in the future when things get better. Like, they're either going to get much, much better or much, much worse. And like everywhere, not just in Venezuela. And I was trying to think of the culture shifts and the changes in the way the world works. Because right now, we are in a society, this world that has all the resources we really need. We just kind of have to figure out how to get them and how to process them. So you need energy, you need time, you need workforce, you need a whole bunch of different things to get the resources, but they're there. And then we also have countries that have resource, but they're still suffering because they're missing one or two things, or they've mishandled the resources they have and now they don't have them anymore, or the value of them in their infrastructure has changed, and that's caused hardships. And that's what happened in Venezuela, is they have the resource, but they mishandled their resources very much. And then when the value of their resource changed, their infrastructure was so dependent on it, and then it became very low in value, that they collapsed, because not only was their infrastructure bad, but they had no prep to maintain after the collapse. They had no foundation. So they completely collapsed, and the people suffered. Government officials, not so much, but the lowest level people suffered drastically. So how that relates to the military, how that relates to the concept of it, is when we don't need those resources, when we're really only separated by culture. Because right now, our culture is built up all around the world because we had no means of communication for a long time, or we did have communication, but their cultures were so different that we kind of isolated ourselves, at least partly. And it was really a almost a necessity, because when you don't want to be them. They are weird. So you have the people in the government saying, we are us and they are them, and they'll stay over there and we'll stay over here and we'll strengthen the borders. And hey, they're trying to get what we have, so we'll strengthen stuff more. And now we have a military that's built to protect us from them. So eventually, once the resources have all been gathered and we have them, and recycling is going to become a big thing, and just the ability to harvest more and better equipment for all the technology is going to increase, and we're not going to be in a scarcity. We're going to be in a post-scarcity world, which means we don't need more resources. This is what I mean. Everyone will have food. Everyone will have water. Everyone will have the basic necessities of life, and really, life is going to become. And this is in the future. This isn't now. We are in a scarcity environment right now, at least some places. What I'm talking about is what happens when the only thing separating us is us and them mentality. And that's reinforced by the military. It's like the United States spends more on the military than, and it's common knowledge, than the number changes. Sometimes I think it's 5, sometimes it's 11, sometimes it's bigger. We spend more than the next X amount of countries combined, like number 2, number 3, number 4, all combined on our military. We're the biggest funded military in the entire world, and you can argue that's because we have to be, or for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. But what happens if none of the countries in the world had militaries? Because eventually military isn't going to be about protecting your resources anymore. It's going to be about separating cultures. And obviously you do need protection against cultures that are bad. We've had a loss of great knowledge because of a warring country attacking a peaceful country, because the peaceful country didn't have a strong military. And so we have that mentality of we must protect what is valuable to us. And I think that's okay. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's a really complex issue of what happens when we spend so many resources on fighting that we don't have to fight. And people suffer at the bottom. And it's just this really weird concept of if no one had a military, if no one fought, if there wasn't really aggression in that form, then how much more would we have? How much more would everyone in the entire world have? We wouldn't need to fight over the resource, because by fighting over the resource, we're destroying the resource. So instead of everyone having 50, because let's say there's 10 people, okay, not 50. Okay, let's say there's 10 people, and there is, let's say, 9 resource. So like they're trying to divide it up. It's like, okay, you get 1, you get 1, you get 1, but one person's not going to get 1, or one person wants more because they need it for whatever reason. So they're going to take more. They're going to take 4, and then so the other people are like, you can't do that. So they're going to fight him, and then they're going to use those resources to fight each other. So by the end of it, not only is everyone really, really hurt, maybe even some of them dead, but now there's only 4, 3, 2 left. So instead of, that person who wanted extra, they might get those 2 or 3 and no one else gets any. But had they all worked together, then there would have been 9 resource. Like, you won't necessarily have as much, but everyone would have more than there is now, because there's just not, like, you're destroying all of it. And it's like when people bomb the oil fields so that other people can't have it, or you raise the fields as you're invading a country. And it's like the United States did it to itself when the North invaded the South and just destroyed all of the farming stuff. It's like you're killing people, and that's tragic. It's horrible, but you're also destroying the infrastructure for life. Like you're destroying forests, or you're destroying towns, or you're using all of the iron to make bullets, and now you can't use iron to build a building. And it's this really weird kind of, you use millions and millions and billions and trillions eventually of money, which is time and energy and resources, to kill each other. And you don't have to. And I'm not saying this as a, hippie, peace, love, and tolerate kind of thing. It's that dilemma, the prisoner's dilemma, kind of. There's probably a more accurate one, but if no one goes against the other person, everyone benefits. If one person goes against them, they can completely screw over the other one if they don't go against them too. But if both of them go against each other, they're still going to lose out a whole bunch. They don't lose out as much as if they did nothing and the other person attacked. But why do it at all? Because you benefit the most from not. And I think that example stands at least somewhat, but it's much more complicated than that, because you're not just protecting yourself. Military is to protect others from tyranny and from corruption. And I think that's really the biggest thing that we protect ourselves from, is ourselves. So the military is like it's a powerful force used to exude the will of whatever's in charge of the military for its own purpose. And if that purpose is righteous, if that purpose is good, then it can be a very powerful thing. But if the military is used for evil, then it can be a very powerful evil thing. So the military is as good as its controller and as useful as its ability. It's a really weird thing. I haven't fully fleshed it out in my head yet, so I'm still thinking of all the different words to use properly. But the whole thing about the military that I'm trying to get it about is, we don't need the military technically. It's a byproduct of natural human nature, to be weary of the unknown, or to be fearful of what could be dangerous. And it's a protective measure. If something were to happen and we need to have the military, then we need to have it, and it's better to have it than to not have it and get screwed over. The prisoners don't have a thing. So, but by having the military, we become a threat ourselves, and we are not without corruption. We are not immune to that. We can say we are, but we're not. We're human. We are the same as them. The culture that we're born into, the culture that we are taught as when we're young and we live in all our lives if you don't travel, that kind of thing builds up. It's very, very interesting to go to another country, and I've done this, and to look at the culture. I didn't see a big difference between the people, but I did see a very big difference on the way the people took certain things. Like housing was very different, the way the roads were. A lot of people used bikes. A lot of people walked. It was just a thing that they did. And I think it's actually kind of interesting, because their roads really weren't built for cars. Their roads were built, because I was in Italy for a while, and their roads were built a long, long time ago in that area. And they were built for other stuff. They were walking paths and stuff like that. So the culture there was, it was much more inclined to you walked everywhere, you biked everywhere, and it's just one little thing. And they had a lot of little stores. They didn't have a lot of big chains. I think they were more socialist oriented than in the United States. But it's just this idea of, there's still people though. Like there were still homeless people wandering around, but there was also still, one of the one main homeless guy I saw had a cell phone. He had one and he was talking on it. He kind of looked like Santa Claus. My teacher actually commented about it because he was the one that pointed out that he had a phone. He's like, why does he have a phone? How does he have a phone? He's supposed to be homeless. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But you're gonna have people that either, I don't know if he was just doing it for money or whatever, because being homeless you can make a lot of money, but there's gonna be people like that. Like people that either don't want to work and they milk the kindness of strangers, or they're going to be, there were people that just drew the most beautiful pictures on the floor, like murals. I guess mural is on the wall. I don't know what it says on the floor, but it might be the same thing. The most beautiful, like somebody drew the Mona Lisa in chalk on the floor. And that's just what they did. They got there, they got the spot, they drew it, and the other person next to them was drawing something else, and it was just something they did. They had works of art everywhere. It was just the culture of make everything look beautiful. And here we don't really have that. If you try doing that, people just kind of walk all. Well, we walked on it anyway. You tried to go around it. It was in the middle of the road, but you really can't walk around it sometimes. But I avoided it. I never stepped on any of it. But it was just, people are people everywhere, and the military. I don't think that the military is bad inherently, but I do know that it can be used for bad. And I think that it is a very powerful and dangerous tool to use, because the military is by default a separating force. It's a protecting force, but it is a separating force because it is protecting us from them. And them can be a subset of us, like in the Civil War, but it's still a different ideal. The ideologies of this side's fighting against that side, and eventually it won't be about resources. It'll be about culture. It'll be about what is right and wrong, and whoever wins is going to be the culture that extends forever. And there's always going to be shifting, and maybe it'll eventually become one conglomerate anyway, which I hope happens. Actually, I think that's the best way of doing it, is we all unite and just kind of meld together over a couple centuries, and we just stop talking about borders, and we stop talking about, you have to have this piece of paper to fly over there, because otherwise you're going to get arrested and sent back. Why is there this divide here? If we're allies, we're friendly countries, we're not, like, I'm not going over there to take your stuff. I'm going over there because I want to go over there. It's nicer there, or I have friends there, because it's really easy to make friends all over the world now. It's not so isolated anymore. So why do we still have these borders? And it's a very complex issue, and I'm not saying that that's just automatically should be the case, but that's my idea of, eventually those divides are not going to be resource based. They're not going to be anything besides our cultures being different. And as we meld and meld and meld, those cultural differences are going to start getting less, because we have these like you look at Japanese culture. It's highly influenced by a lot of other countries in the world. Mostly, I guess, in their music and entertainment industries, they have a lot of influences there. But they also, because they have so much technology, they're so fast, they have to integrate all over the world, because that's how you progress really, really rapidly, is you have stuff pulling from everywhere, and it's data, it's a lot of different things, so they have to meld quickly. And I think the United States started really, really well and has become more of an isolated kind of thing over time. We started mixing a lot, and there was a lot of racism, and there still is. And then we've gotten to the point where racism is kind of just pressed by the medias and by the different fears that are going around the world. Swine flu, right now it's the Zika virus, and then we had... what was that one that got cured? What was that? There was not Ebola. That wasn't Ebola, was it? I think it was Ebola. Like, oh, it's like huge over there. It's huge over there. No one cared for a really long time, and then it came here, and then everyone freaked out for months. And I mean, rightly so. I mean, if it spread everywhere, then it would be really bad. But it didn't, so it was okay. And then people forgot about it, and now there's a cure for it, and that's awesome. But it's we don't care so much about the other countries anymore unless it's affecting us, and it's our culture right now. We are isolationists now, not all the way. We do trade and we do all that kind of stuff, but that's the government. That's the way our government works. But the people don't really care, and I think that's kind of a problem. Our news focuses almost entirely on national news, like national or local. We don't do international very well. We don't have the BBC. And I mean, we could watch the BBC, but I mean, and others, there's other ones. But it's like, I like a lot of the stuff that happens over there, like the stuff that happens around the world. I like to learn about it. And it's hard to find like a local area where I can go and talk to people about international news. And I would like that. I would like to be able to just, call somebody up and say, hey, did you hear about what happened so-and-so in the country of so-and-so? It's like, yeah, I saw that on the news. I don't see that. I try to talk to people, and they hate it. They don't want to hear about it. Even my friend in Venezuela doesn't want to talk about Venezuela because it's so bad. But some people I talk to are like, wait, what? And they didn't even know. And that it freaks them out. And I don't want to freak people out. I don't want to do that shock value thing. I want to have a conversation, but they don't know. Nobody talks about it. And it's kind of frustrating. But I guess that's it's getting long. It's 21 minutes already. So I hope I need to explain this more, but I'm going to post this video, and hopefully it explains a little bit of what I've been thinking about, and the idea of this the power of the military and what the military really means, I guess. It's a really weird concept, and hopefully it was informative. Hopefully it was entertaining a little bit, and I hope you have a nice day, and peace.